Good afternoon, friends, and welcome to this subject on sourcing demystified. As I said in the beginnings, I'm trying to first clarify the term sourcing. What exactly is sourcing? We use the sourcing many ways around sourcing of, if you're talking of recruitment of staff, then also we talk of sourcing. When we are talking as a procurement person, we talk of sourcing. When we are trying to find a spouse also, we're talking of sourcing. So sourcing word, now you can understand when I said about the spouse, why it is so important around. So when we talk of sourcing, sourcing is nothing but to identify, select the right supplier. I'm saying the right supplier because when we say the right supplier, they're very vital for us if you want to talk about the business growth or business performance. So they're very important to us. Well, friend, with this, let me see what we plan to cover up. Objective which I have is first is to clarify the term sourcing versus procurement versus purchasing versus supply management versus supply chain management. That's what I will try to cover. The whole game of sourcing starts from needs. You have a needs. And from the needs, you're developing the specification. So to me, that is the heart of the whole sourcing. You really need to know what exactly you're looking for. What are your specs around? In most of the cases that I've seen around, which are very reactive procurement, somebody gives you the specs and your job, even they give you the supplier name also. Your job is only to make a PO. But there are some people I've seen who are doing very strategic function. They look at the needs, they look at the technical specs, they try to provide their input so that can help improving the quality, delivery, and all these things around. Searching for potential supplier. So I'm calling the word supplier because they are not still become the vendor until you select them. Analyze supplier proposal and capabilities. So when you get the big list of suppliers, you're not going to work with everyone around. So you need to do analytic part. You have to assess their capability, both financially, technically, managerially, company's past performance. So that's what we need to do. So once you're done the sourcing part, you do the negotiations, and then you say, guys, okay, I've selected the supplier. At the stage of selection, basically the sourcing activity is over. But then the sourcing is followed by contract formations, evaluation of supplier performance, and if in case you've got a lot of excess crap around, also you have to sell it, which is the opposite of sourcing. So if I had to summarize the whole objective, my objective in this case would be to brief you about the tools, processes, to identify, evaluate, select potential supplier who creates not the lowest price, they create the best value to you. That's the focus I'm trying to put on. Now let's see the sourcing versus procurement. If you see the bigger picture down, so sourcing is a part of procurement. So that part I think we should also be clear. Sourcing is part of procurement. So sourcing, as the name employed, is finding a source from where I can get my goods and services. While in the case of procurement, I'm delivering the goods and services. So when it comes to delivering, it has further activity next to sourcing. So I hope this clarifies the term sourcing versus procurement. Now, over the time, I would say, if I go back 30 years back, 35 years back, there was only a word called purchasing. So the term sourcing was very used in a different fashion. But now purchasing has become procurement. And now procurement has got two parts of it. One part is called sourcing, other part is called purchasing. So if you look at the whole procurement cycle, the game starts from obviously you have to initiate something. Either it's a project procurement or your own procurement. You got a request around. The needs are there. You specify the requirements. You convert the needs into the specify the requirements. Plan approach that you're trying to finding the how do I approach the market. So this component is called the planning, market planning, the whole project procurement planning. Then the next component is source. That's where the major focus would be for today's session. Approach the market, select the supplier. So selecting the supplier is a key function there. Then the next is one I've done the sourcing. Then the next come managing this one. So when I talk of procurement, all activities are there, but source is only one part of it. Right? Now let's see these two components. And this has happened over the last 20 years now. So we say procurement is a bigger name, bigger function. So within procurement, you've got two arms. One group is doing sourcing, whose job is to identify, identify and select. Other one is purchasing. Their job is, guys, this team has already identified the supplier. The purchasing people will do, okay, it is already identified, long-term agreement is there. I just follow the same supplier and place the order. But there might be some cases where there is no long-term agreement, then purchasing people have to do source and place order. But critical items, strategic items, they're already done sourcing in advance. So this is the trend I see in most of the companies nowadays. So there's a one team whose job is to do the sourcing part. There's another team whose job is to comply with that sourcing. So compliance means, if I say around, so sourcing is the one you are trying to save the money. And sourcing, if I use the word strategic sourcing, that's what it has become. Because they are trying to do strategically long term. But then the other side is a buying, which is P2P, and which we could call purchasing. So one is putting the money on the table, other is called the money in the bank. If P2P is not complying with the one these people have made the long-term agreement, the whole effort is going to waste. So two components, one is strategic component, one is technical. So sourcing word is there, but one is technical, because you may not have a long-term agreements for all the item in your organization. So this team, which is called buying P2P peoples, they will be doing sourcing also technical level, and they will be doing strategic level. And strategic level is nothing but strategic sourcing itself. If you use the word sourcing, again, if you look at the supply chain also, if I go with the score model, you can see the real thing, which are processes which are there. Plan is there. Obviously, everything is behind everything is a plan. But then the source is the starting point. So when I start with the source is nothing. I might have outsourced it. I might be procuring it. Then there is somebody who's making it, operation part. Then I'm delivering the logistic part. And then after the logistic, there's a return. So here also, if you look around money-wise, cost-wise, if any supply chain is, let's say, spending $100 billion, out of $100 billion, 70% would be going to source. So source is a very critical component, whether you talk of a supply chain, whether you talk of a procurement. So sourcing is a major chunk of funds around. So that's why it carries a much bigger weight. And obviously the profile of the people is much higher, those who are involved in sourcing. If you look back again, the procurement process, the specs are there, procurement plan is there. And after the plan, and somebody has authorized this one, guys, okay, go ahead, the plan is approved. Then we do the evaluations, the panel minutes, recommendation guides. These are the best suppliers, and this could be done cross-functional also. And then we do the contract. So in this bigger game, certainly this comes up. Now here I want to again a little bit focus on planning. I know this is not the subject for sourcing, but it is very important to know. Traditional procurement, if you just think back after seeing this slide, we hardly spend any time as a procurement person, since I have come up and seen all these activities around worldwide. Somebody made a request around, hardly we care. Our efforts are very small. If you look at the level of efforts above the thick line, bold line, is very small. Needs are coming, again, our efforts are very small. Specify requirements, somebody has given us, our efforts are very small. What it leads, that means we have to spend much more time later on to manage the contract. Since we are not put our efforts in the initial stage, we have just placed the order, and that means we are spending more time, if you look at the height of each bar around, in approaching the market, negotiations, managing it, we are spending much more time. On the other side, if you look the next slide, here what we've done is I'm putting much more effort in the beginning stage, guys. Okay, what is the purpose of this item? Why I'm buying for this? Who is the beneficiary? Who is the stakeholders? And what are the critical in the needs around? Needs may have 10 requirements, which are much more important. If I have to compromise one to save money, which one I can compromise? Which are the top priorities? Specify the requirements. Then I plan it. So once I put much more effort in my level of effort as a procurement person, initial stage is much higher. You can see compared to the previous slide, I don't have to spend too much time on negotiation because my RFX has gone with complete requirements. My RFX has gone, my request for quotation, proposal, whichever you call, has gone with the complete terms and conditions. I'm not spending my time in arguing the same thing. Managing the contract relationship. So what I want to say around here is planning plays a wonderful role. Sourcing, if I look in isolation, yes. But if my sourcing is supported by a good plan, my sourcing effort will be less. And my result of the organization will be better, and I will have better values. Now, let's start with the statement of needs around. Somebody has given the needs to you. Guys, we need 20 computers, we need 3 generators. But then you start looking around, what is the purpose of this? I'm buying this air conditioner, generators, computers, or I'm buying some trainers or something. I'm getting someone for doing the training, consulting. What is the purpose? What is the core purpose of this? Who will be impacted by this procurement? If I do a bad job or a good job, who is affected? Is it very critical? If the impact is much bigger, I'll be very serious about its performance. Then I also look for the key stakeholders. If the key stakeholders are all the top bosses around, then I'll be certainly very serious about it. And if the key stakeholder is feeding the supply manufacturing line, if that item is delayed, my whole manufacturing will start having troubles. And if that is delayed, then my major clients may also get affected. So you have to understand the needs part, and that helps you to understand the importance of the things around. Now, we convert the needs into the specs around. Not we convert, sometimes they give it to us, the clients. But we need to also look back. What is required? How much is required? The guy is asking me 100 pieces. Does this guy need all the 100 pieces now? Can I cut down? Can I do in 3 phases? When is it required? The time, delivery. Normally, you'll find that anytime they make a request to you, they always want yesterday. But you want to be very precise. What exactly? You may keep a buffer, I'm not saying that. But when they give a request to you, they will say, oh, yes, we need yesterday. So you need to be very sure when is required. And if any delay in delivery happens, what could be the impact of that? How should we transport it? Are we getting by air? Are we getting by sea? Are we getting by truck? What are the mode of transportations? The guy will tell you, I need yesterday, get it by air. But then you say, guys, I have to spend double or triple the money. Can I afford to get it by other means around? The quality part. What information does my supplier need around? If I'm giving a contract to the supplier says, guys, please explain me. So I need to have sufficient information which gives sufficient ideas to my supplier. Well, what do I need? Broadly, when we talk of specs, it has got 5 components. Specifying, second, delivery, the service response, and that's what in case of services, we use the word SLA. So you all know very well the SLA becomes very important part of the specs. Other information if needed by the supplier. Of specs part, if I look around, functionality is there, durability is there. If you've got a specific standard, it's a non-standard design, then you need a design, capacity, performance, recyclability. But keep in mind, over design or under design specifying is equally bad. I have seen cases around. I remember one of my country ops in Vienna, and they were trying to buy the windmills. They basically, the consultant was hired, consultant took the cut and paste of his supplier specs around running into 4 pages. Procurement people get happy, oh, this guy has given too much detail to us. But at the end of the day, these were the specs of one particular supplier. So hardly there is any competition. Now there are different ways to write the specs. You can use a brand name, you can use supplier industry code if you're buying steel, cements, you have to put the code numbers. You can use samples, there will be technical specs around, composition, if you're buying medical supplies, you need a composition, last is the functional specs around. I think this is the most common one, is functional and performance specs around. That we try to put what is the purpose, the function, and performance. So if these two things are spelled it out, then it is left to the supplier to cater for that. If I'm buying a vehicle, my function is to transport. Performances should pick up the speed up to this. Function performances, the mileage should be so much. The noise level should be so much. AC should work like this. So that means you give a broad specification, generic specification, so that more and more people can compete for it. Now, in case of services, the most difficult thing. Services, we expect that all of you should give basically what exactly you're looking around as output. You're hiring a consultant, you're hiring a trainer, you're hiring for facility management. You need to spell it out, the output, what you need, what the deliverables are there. The time frame should be spelled it out. What type of reports you're requiring around. So that's very important. Now, after we have understood the needs part, specs part, the next comes strategy we're going to make. So before I come to the sourcing, I need to make my supply strategy. So supply strategy means what are the supply segments around? Am I going to the Northwest, let's say if I'm going to the US market, am I going to the Asian market? What type of market segment I'm going to explore around? Because each market segment may have a different rates, but there may be other risk around. So those risks also you have to look into it. How many suppliers to buy from? So you're basically looking around, okay guys, at the end of the day, I'm getting 40 suppliers. Do I need to deal with 40? No. How many? I should have 5, 6, 7, 8, whatever you want to do. What type of relationship I'm going to have? Do you want to keep them at arm's length? Do you want to have a collaborative relationship? So that strategy has to be made before you jump into sourcing. And what type of contracts I'm going to have? Is it a blanket contract? Is it a long-term contract? Is it a one-time contract for spot buying? So you need to find all these things before you come to sourcing. Now, when we're talking of sourcing, the very thing starts is selection part, identifying the market. Identifying the market means I have to do the market research. So that's my first step of sourcing. Analysis is to develop a thorough understanding of the market. That's my key objective. And what is the nature of the market? Is the market very fluctuating, very volatile? Let's say if I'm dealing with buying crude oil and I've got a refinery in India, so certainly it's a very volatile market. There are many political issues gets involved in this. So you have to understand the nature of the market around, what factors are impacting it, and overall procurement strategies around. So market research, when we talk around, is your own knowledge of this market, previous experience. You can say, guys, oh, I had experience last time buying from Latin America or some other countries around, was good or bad, whatever is there, it helps you. Internet research, certainly you all do the Google search and other things around. Ask suppliers. You have to get requests for information. You have the information of some suppliers with whom you're dealing. But those which knew you're trying to tap it up, you need to get RFI. Ask other buyers. When you ask other buyers, and sometimes you can use the networking, you can use, obviously the social media is another way, guys. Like we have in ISM, we have a social media in all the major cities. People do ask, oh, I'm looking for a supplier for this. Have you any experience of buying this? What is your experience around? You can always get that. Market analysis consultant. Sometimes the subjects are very complex, very new to you. Let's say you're trying to buy, I remember the case when I was involved in buying ERP system for the whole UN. The cost was very high and our knowledge was very limited. So sometimes we may hire a consultant to support us. Can you tell me what is this about? So then we look around the next is the professional bodies are there around, industry bodies are there, and industry capability network is there. So all these things helps you to do the market research. Now, once I've done the market research, I know here are my areas, segment where I want to focus on. Supply positioning. How do I position my supply? Now, obviously, you have limited time. You don't have endless time. Your office is having a lot of pressure on you with so many outputs. You have to prioritize your time and effort. I think this is true for all procurement people I've seen worldwide. They're always having many things piled up around, and they have to finish the job on the same day. They can't even afford to postpone for a day even. So that means prioritize your time and efforts. So you need to do is now here comes another important thing around supply position. So we use E20 formulas. So those items which are of 20% values but 80%, if I look around, they are the one routine are bottleneck. But then the top, if I put them in a descending order, all my contracts, the top 20% of item or contracts would be 80% of the values, and they are falling either critical or leverage. So the leverage I could call is the technical profit. Critical is my risk is going up. It's a high risk area. Critical. Risk is also because if I've got less choices of supplier, let's say I'm making computers, there's only one supplier like Intel who can provide me the chip. Obviously, the critical case. I can't do any business without that. But if I'm getting the plastic components, I've got tons of supply. I can do leverage. But then there are low value items, which goes into the routine. Low value, low risk. Bottleneck, low values, high risk again. Now, the same thing I have tried to put up in the technical profit. So you're low value, low risk, again, sourcing methodology is totally different. What exactly we look around in objective, I look around the sourcing strategies. If it's a high value, non-strategic, the risks are very less. My objective is to ensure supply. While in the case of high risk, high value, I want to manage provider. I have to manage them. Manage means relationship becomes very critical. Low value, low risk, I don't want to have attention. I want to have a catalog, like Amazon type catalog. So people can just go online, place order. My customers can place order directly. But only thing is I maintain the catalog. So that's the strategy of sourcing. So basically what this slide gives you is, depending on the risk, depending on the values, your sourcing strategy will change again based on the 2x2 matrix. Now this is on the, again, how supplier views us. Again, those same 2x2 matrix, supplier sees, guys, do we have attraction for this? Value of business is more, obviously there's a level of attraction. If I go with the core business, which is very core, very few suppliers, supplier has got more major attention, level of attraction. Guys, if I get this business for next 5-10 years, still these people are working, till I'm the only supplier, my business is assured. Similarly, if I go to the bottleneck item, I can develop in beginning, but then again, my business is assured. But if I go to the one which are low value, low risk, there are many suppliers, my margins are very small. And if it is high value, low risk, they know very well the next time again in competition, I may not get a business. Let me exploit one time. So their perceptions are different. So based on the perceptions, you can have different approaches. The market behaviors are different now. Now question comes, now these behaviors can be changed. Yes, you can change the behavior. You need to have behavior tactics. As we talk about marketing other way around, procurement marketing also. I can go to the supplier, guys, this is the business, but if you do a good job, I'll give you more future business, even in the other one. It looks a low value, low risk. Don't go with the low values, but if you do a good job, possibly, then I can give you a chance in the strategic area as well. So you have to market it. You have to show the potential. You have to show the bigger things around. Supplier development. Some suppliers are very small. I've got one choice, I can live with that, but then there is another choice available then I could do the development of the supplier. So I have got two supplier related. So I'm not in the trap of one supplier. Partnership approach. If I find this guy is not even caring for us, we may like to think of a partnership. Financial incentives, I may give it to them. Risk sharing also, I may think around, guys, don't worry if you work with us. If there's a risk, if you feel you're losing something, we'll compensate. So you have the market perceptions are there about your products. Some are not bidding for it, some are bidding for it, some are only coming with one supplier. You can have different tactics to change the behavior. Now, there's another part also around who is powerful. Is supplier dominant or you are dominant? Obviously, if the buyer is dominant, people will listen to you. But if supplier is dominant, you have to listen to the supplier until you change the behavior. Now, there are situations which is high value and high risk. They are both interdependent. Even in the low risk and low values, buyer and suppliers are interdependent. So there are places where you are interdependent, both cases. You would like to collaborate. Supplier and buyer is dominant. When the buyer is dominant, buyer will try to say, guys, I got multiple choice. These are my terms and conditions. I'm not going to budge. So you have dependency. So dependency part also changes, power also changes. So the relationship also will vary from one end is adversarial, arm's length, other side is co-destiny, risk sharing, partnership, strategic alliances. So all this depends on what is the purpose. If the duration of the contract is short, I will do arm's length. If it's a longer durations, 2 years, 3 years, I will go with the strategic alliance. I will go with partnership. Again, if I go with the arm's length, then you don't have trust. Spot buying is fine. Communication. Again, close communication. Here's an open communication. I have to open my cards. If I want to do partnership, I want to strategic alliances, I have to open my cards. Problem solving. If I'm having a problem with a particular item and I want to do a long-term arrangements, we may do joint working on it. Now, the sourcing steps, if you involve around, if you look around, as I said in the beginning, the purpose is to find right supplier. And those suppliers that provide me the best quality, best offer, I'm not saying low price. And the sourcing process includes every activity that involves identifying, assessing the potential supplier, selecting them, engaging them. Now, if you look at the bigger picture, the first thing is approach the market. As I said to you in the previous slides, market search is done, market research is done around. Then we are trying to do the evaluate the offers, make a short list, conduct due diligence, negotiate with the preferred supplier, draft the contract award, and debrief on the success. Now, this question all the time comes up sometime, guys. Contracting is not the part of sourcing, but we are forgetting around. If I'm doing sourcing, I'm doing RFX, I'm doing solicitation document. In the solicitation document, I'm enclosing my terms and conditions. So in short, I'm providing them what are the contract conditions around. And it is my interest also as a sourcing head to debrief those who are unsuccessful. Some of the contract I have seen around, I was telling of ERP implementation, offer which came from many companies were running into 400, 350 pages around. Now, certainly these people have put so much efforts around. It is not fair on my part if I don't debrief them. Next time the word spreads around, these people even don't share with us, don't even tell us. Why will they bid next time? So I have to debrief them. So my game starts from approaching the market, ends with those who are unsuccessful, I have to debrief them. So this is what covers in my sourcing part. Now, if you look at the successful procurement part, the key component which plays around is quality of the proposals, what we receive, how effective evaluation is done around, So when we talk of evaluation, the factor comes, what are the parameters of evaluation? What is the value of each parameter? What is the weight of each parameter? And successful selection of whichever is the good supplier, the best suppliers. So these components, if you see totally, as I said in the very beginning, sourcing is to me very, very important function, very critical function. Specs are very important. I can understand it. If you're wrong specs, garbage in, garbage out. But after that, you need a wonderful right supplier. If you got a bad supplier who comes up with too many legal disputes, delays frequently, it puts your image also down. It affects finally the image of the organization, your organization as well. Now, when we talk of procurement methods, there's open competitions, limited competitions. I know in the private sector is all about limited, but sometimes we go with a single source. Yes. If I go with that umbrella concept of procurement having two parts, one sourcing, you may call strategic sourcing, where the sources have been identified, approved. Now, other one is P2P. I just go to the single source. Now, the sourcing tools which are used, this is very, very important around. And normally I do when we interview somebody, we ask the guys, what are the sourcing tools around? People just fumble up. They know it. I'm not saying that. But the moment I use the word tools, they get lost. What is this? So this is what we're calling as RFX. X could be I could be P, it could be Q, could be B, R could be the reverse auction. So all of you, I would say, I'm sure you all know it, when to use RFI, when to use RFP, when to use RFQ, when to use RFB, and when to use reverse auction. So to me, they're all the sourcing tools. I've done the market research. Then once I've done the market research, I ask for information. I don't have the information with me. Those who are my existing suppliers, I know the information. But those which are the new ones, I don't have the information. In the past, it used to be called expression of interest. Now I think everybody is calling, because we are streamlined with the word RFX, X could be varying, so it is called RFI. Request for information. We send the documents to them. Guys, this is what we are looking for. This is our needs are there. If you are interested, please send your all these following details around. And the next is request for quotation or proposal. Here also, I think it should be very, very clear. Proposal is used where you're looking for solution. If you're looking for a solution, you want a creativity of the supplier, then we call request for proposal. But in case we are looking for something standard item, standard specs, I'm not going to look for a proposal per se. I say, give me the quotation. There's another one which I know very few of you use is called, again, request for bid. I use the word invitation for bid. Some people call IFP, some people call RFP. I just use one. This is used. Some companies I've seen when the contract is of a very high value, they don't want to be totally open up, everybody having access to that information. If I'm doing a contract of $40–50 million, I want some secrecy around. Because the information is available only to few people. So this is where we come up with the request for. Obviously, in the government sector, certainly it is separate. It comes in a sealed form. While in the private sector, they come rule. Guys, up to this, anybody, depending on the authority level, they can be. Informations are open. But in a high value, they keep it separate. Another one is the reverse auction, where we have already identified approved supplier. I've got 6 suppliers for each item, let's say. Already done in this way. Then when I'm doing P2P, I don't do anything, I just do the reverse auction among the 4 of them, or 5 of them. So when to use, potential benefits, and problems also. Now the problem which I can say across all the one is assessing their capability. So that is where we have to be very careful. Now when we're documenting the requirements, so all of these RFX, it could be RFI, RFQ, this, they have to go with the requirements. So you are supposed to pass on the requirements to the potential supplier. They want to see your service request. They want a description in case of goods and services. Sometimes we use the scope of work, SOW. Some of you call statement of work, some of you call terms of reference. So there are different terminology, but each one has a different meaning around. Terms of reference is used mostly in the government and the World Bank around the hiring of consultants. Private sector is using scope of work and statement of work. Statement of work is a detailed required. It's much more detailed. Scope of work is typically you give the deliverables. So when I say scope of work, it is basically the deliverables, while in the case of statement of work, it is much more detailed. Now, when it comes to supplier evaluation, it includes every activity performed to assess the potential supplier. But the broadly parameters revolves around the quality of service, supplier capacity, or you may call capabilities, technical capabilities, financial capabilities, financial health around, all those parameters. So financially, they have to be strong. Technically, they have to be strong. Supplier capacity, you're looking for 20,000 pieces in 1 week, and the guy has production capacity of 20,000 over a span of 1 year. So it doesn't match. So quality of service, you're looking for international standard compliance. The guy cannot give you, forget about the international standard, cannot give you any standards compliance. So quality doesn't match. Now the criteria which comes up in evaluations. So far we've done the market research. And after the market research, we said, guys, okay, now we know we've done the supply positioning around, we've thought about the supply strategies around, 2x2 matrix. Now we know what to do, when to do what. So I'm now trying to send my tools, which are the RFX tools, sourcing tools, but I'm also sharing with all my suppliers, guys, here is my evaluation criteria. I have to be honest with them. They should know in upfront that these are my preconditions, terms and conditions. I don't want that we go and ask all the prices and then we start fighting it out with the supplier. Sir, our these conditions, we are not happy. Can you change this? Can you do this? It becomes too much nightmare. So I think which are the standard preconditions which you feel very clear cannot be changed. They are mandatory. Let it be made clear to them, guys. These are the preconditions. If you like it, fine. If not, don't bid for it. Then there are mandatory conditions. Certainly, you want somebody, supplier, having the proper name of the company. Address is there. Contact person is there. Not the guy is only having the office bag, doesn't have any address, doesn't have anything around. So that means supplier is not even predictable. Then this guy will run away. Then we need the qualitative criteria. Qualitative criteria means technical merit. What this guy is making, is it fit for my purpose? If the item what they are making is not fit for your purpose, why to waste time? Capability, capacity. Your contract may be of $60 million. The guy's annual turnover is only $1 million, doesn't fit with you. Value for money. So when you're trying to do it around, guys, don't compare just the price per se. Look at the total cost of ownership. Even if the total cost of ownership is more in one case, but the product is better, which improves your sales revenue, so that is covered through that. So you have to focus on value for money, financial viability, and the risk assessment. Financially, is it viable or not? And each business, I've got, say, 5 suppliers, I know very well, I have a different risk with each one. All 5 are good, I'm not questioning. But each one gives me a different type of risk, depending on their locations. They might be in different part of the country, but each may have a different risk for me. So you have to assess the risk for each case. And then you have to prioritize your criteria, which is more important to you. Now, coming back to the rating part, this is very, very important. I remember in the UN, we used to spend a lot of time on this because we were getting a lot of offers from various parts of the world. Rating scale, should we have 0 to 5 or 0 to 10? After this presentation, you can discuss among yourself also. 0 to 5 is very clear. Whom to give 1, whom to give 2, whom to give 3, whom to give 4, whom to give 5. If the product is excellent, everything is excellent, 5. Good, 4. Something okay, 3. Closer to okay, then 2, 1. 0 means not acceptable. Same thing you can do from 0 to 10 also. But then you're moving with a scale of 2 marks each time. Here you're moving from 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. There you will have 0, 2, 4, 6, 8, 10. Now, evaluation matters. Why I set the rating scale around? Because when we used to hire a team to do the evaluation, somebody loves writing something is, oh, I love this company, give 8 marks. Then we used to ask them, what did you give 8 marks? On what basis? What are the parameters? So that's, I think it helps. Now comes to evaluation method, the very first is lowest price. Sometimes we go with the lowest price, that's what attracts everyone. Second is simple score. Give me the score. I'm hiring a consultant. Give me the score. Who gets the highest score? Hire. But then I say, guys, no. Then each item is a different score. If I'm hiring a consultant and the consultant is well qualified, coming from a good company, another one is not qualified, coming from a very bad performing company, so there has to be weight. Should I give weight to the price? Should I give weight to the technical parameters? So each item could be given later. Target price. I think all of us know we cannot avoid it. When we have the budget, we have a target price. So basically, all of us have a budget, and from the base of the budget, I decide my target. Brooks' law is that if quality is the most important parameters, you know very well if this item fails, let's say I'm buying a bearing, if it fails, there's another supplier unknown, half the price. If bearing fail, I have to put the plant shut. And the losses which are going to happen will be much more. So in that case, price is not the least factor. Quality is the only parameters, nothing else. So this is broadly a checklist which is based on my experience around I'm trying to share with you guys. I mean, you have, all of you have your own things, but this checklist I feel helps you at the end of the day. When I was the chairman for the supply chain and trying to look at all the contracts, I used to see qualification of supplier. What is the qualification of the supplier? First thing, does it attract you? Does it good, bad, whatever names, whatever you may call around, what are the customers saying around, the customer analysis of ownership. Who owns it? The delivery part, the finance part, the capacity part, past performance, references. In some cases, we have seen we will make it mandatory. If a contract is more than $1 million, guys, have you visited them? Not only one person, a team of people. Site visit to the customers. If customers are using their products, I will also go to the customer. Guys, what do you feel about it? Show me. The search part also. On the media check, image of the company, awards, what type of awards this company has got around. Security part also, any conviction, if this guy is convicted already, there are many criminal cases. I remember the case when we get into headquarters, we had one contract came from Satyam. We knew they were under the problems. So you have this checklist was all the time with me. As a chairperson, I will ask all these questions from all the possible contracts coming from different countries. I say, guys, we have 200 country offices. Guys, tell me answer to this. If I'm not convinced, I'll go back. Now, the whole supplier appraisal process, you have to set the targets, analyze the supply market as we discussed, position the items, criteria. Number one is criteria for supplier appraisal. Keep in mind, supplier, there are two words, supplier appraisal, supplier rating. So when you do supplier appraisal is before award of the contract, appraising. But once the contract is signed, then the performance part comes in, then it's the rating. So rating is done only after they have been hired or something, or identify the potential supplier, screen the potential supplier, research further, give the weight, criteria, rate the supplier, undertake SWOT analysis, strength, weakness. So some of the due diligence which I showed you, they came from the SWOT part. Record the outcomes, review the outcome with the suppliers, determine supplier development strategy. If I got no choice, I got only one supplier, what is my strategy to develop this? This is another parameters which I would like to again ask you, when you go back, check it. Are we looking at only the capability part and also looking at the motivation part? It is the same thing like hiring a staff member, wonderful staff, wonderful capability, with great score around, with best schools around, but the guy is not motivated to work. The performance is going to be low. So when we talk about the performance of a supplier or any person around, it is not the capability alone, it is the motivation also. The guy is having a passion to work. If the guy has no passion, capability is okay, but the guy has no passion to work. So this is where the next slide shows you. In this one, the guy has got wonderful high capabilities, capable but uncommitted. The other one you see on the extreme top, ideal, is the one which is highly motivated and capable. So even if I have to find somebody middle of the road, I won't mind if ideal is not available, compared to the one capable but uncommitted. So you need to draw some kind of line between the two things around. Now here comes the evaluation criteria. Obviously, you will have various parameters. Each can be given a score. Then let's look at the technical merits around. So degree to which goods and service meets my expectation, 30%. Quality of the goods, 10%. Capability of the supplier to deliver, under that, you've got different headings around 5%, 15%, the track record, 15%. They understand our requirements, 25%, 15%. So you split the whole 100% into this. Then for each one, you give a score, either between 0 to 10 or 0 to 5, whatever the year. Then you do the multiplication and then find the best scores. Now, once we are done evaluation, then naturally the next step comes. I've identified this the best supplier, this is the next number 2, number 3, fine. Then we're talking about effective negotiation. I know we have covered this in our previous webinar. Establish the negotiation team, analyze the parties and the deal, decide strategies and tactics, negotiate and record the agreement, and reflect all negotiations. To me, negotiation is more like a chess game. So you guys have to really look around. The one word I can say, because those who want to see more of it, we can cover through this webinar. We focus a lot on that. Best alternative negotiated agreement. Let's say I've got 3 suppliers. One is the best one. I'm going to them. But then the guy is very rude. The guy is not able to listen to me, not agreeing to me. Then I know very well I've got number 2 behind me. That alternative is not bad, except I may have to do some development work with this guy. So you have that means you have to develop your background. If you can develop the background, then you don't have to listen to the number 1 only. Then you have got another one with whom you can depend on. So technology for support sourcing, I think this is very important around today's procurement, or if I talk around strategic sourcing, you need one range of technologies around. Particularly the e-sourcing tools you must have, Rec to Pay, ERFX, reverse auctions, spend analysis, supplier performance management tools. I think you all need to have all these tools around. If not, depending again on the size of your companies, but I would say in today's world, when you're looking for the real-time basis information, technology is very, very important. And now we are moving into the digital world, you still need much more. That's why I use the word ERFX, reverse auctions, spend analysis. So that supports your digital transformation. Now, another term which comes of the sourcing is Offtrade, is all about strategics. Many times you will ask somebody, those companies which are really moved into the strategic part. If you say sourcing, they all automatically mean strategic sourcing. But those companies which are still working on the old tactical procurement, reactive procurement, sourcing is nothing but just to identify, select the supplier. While in those companies where strategic sourcing is very powerful, sourcing is always understood as strategic sourcing. So this is the process actually. I would say what strategic sourcing does is leverages all the resources, whatever resources are there around, to get the best value for the money. In summary, actually we covered this subject in our previous webinar under the name of category and strategic sourcing. It's organized and ongoing activities around. It is systematic. We have a set process. Normally many people follow 7 steps, some follow 6 steps, but it's a collaborative way. It is done in a collaborative way. It's not that you guys do it alone. If I see the strategic sourcing process flow, I've tried to put them into the 4 groups, but technically the steps are 7. First is the research and analysis. You do the spend analysis. The foundation of strategic sourcing is spend, spend, spend. Your past spend, your forecast, what future you're going to spend around, what are the potential of savings around, forming a team around, stakeholder discussion, what are the players who are going to be affected. Procurement event. So then you do the complete procurement event, which I've talked in my previous slides about. That means developing the specs part, doing the RFX. RFX also come as a part of solicitation process. Evaluations, conduct the vendor negotiation, award the contract. But then the next is managing the performance. So same thing we have tried to put into the 7 steps which are used. So SS is nothing but the strategic sourcing. You look around, guys. I've got 20 categories. Now each category manager is there. And for each category, I may have 15, 20 items. I do my spend analysis for my category. I'm the IT group. Another one is dealing with hardware. Third one is dealing with CapEx. Everybody does their own category. Then they see, guys, in my category, which are my low value, low risk, which are high value, high risk, which are the one, again, high risk, but low values, and then high value, low risk. I try to define my profile. And once I define my profile of the category I'm heading in, then I develop my sourcing strategy. What are the sourcing strategy I'm going to have? Do I need to find more suppliers? Or do I have enough suppliers around? Generate supplier portfolios. I have my limited supplier already, then I want to add more in my portfolios. Some are coming with innovative ideas. I'm calling as agreements because they are contracts in one way, but they're not financially liable in that sense. I fix the price, I fix everything around. So we have gentleman, gentlewoman promise around, guys, okay, we'll work with you. And then it's a continuous improvement. Don't think that the long term are the framework agreements. Like in Europe, we call it the framework agreements. UK, we call as call-off contracts. Now, these call-off contracts are leveraging your whole volume spend. And then we're also trying to do strategize my supplier base. I'm rationalizing my supplier base. If I've got 10 suppliers, I'll say, guys, I'll use only 2 or 3. So in the process, I'm giving more business to them. I can cut down my cost. My trust with them will go up. It's a continuous improvement process. Sometimes you made a journey, but then you find, oh, this is not the way I wanted it. So it's a continuous process. Keep in mind. And it's a collaborative process, organized process. That's what we call it. Well, friend, with this, I want to thank you all for the patient hearing. Thanks again.